The captive in chains. The metal room was cold. Too cold. Kira sat on the floor, her thin arms wrapped around her knees. Heavy chains held her ankles. Another chain was tight around her neck, connected to the wall behind her. She couldn't move far. She couldn't stand up straight. The floor was hard, the light above too bright. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Her skin, pale and marked with old bruises, shivered in the chill air. Her eyes, golden and wide, stayed locked on the steel door across the room. She knew what happened when that door opened. Pain. That's all the humans brought. Pain and fear. She remembered the screams of others before her. Alien captives just like her. Some begged, some fought, some cried. In the end, none returned. Kira didn't know what the humans did to them. She didn't want to know. She only knew she would be next. She was the last one in the holding room. Now, it was quiet. Too quiet. Suddenly, click. The door unlocked. Kira's heart raced. Her breath came in short, fast bursts. Her hands shook. She pulled back into the corner, dragging the chains with her. She didn't want to cry, but tears still came. The door opened. A human stood there, tall, strong. His skin was tan and his eyes were blue, cold, sharp. He wore black boots and a simple brown jacket. Kira didn't look at his face for long. She squeezed her eyes shut. Don't scream. Don't fight. Just let it happen, she whispered to herself. But nothing happened. No kick. No slap. No shout. Only soft footsteps. Then the man knelt beside her. She opened her eyes slowly, confused. He wasn't holding a weapon. No stick. No whip. Nothing. Instead, he held a blanket. He carefully wrapped it around her shoulders. It was warm. Thick. She didn't understand. Why? Why would a human give her comfort? Kira flinched as he reached toward the collar on her neck, but again he didn't hurt her. He checked the chain gently, not pulling it. His hand touched her skin, and for the first time, it didn't hurt. It felt kind. I'm Mark, the man said softly. Kira didn't reply. Her voice was trapped in fear. Mark stood up again and looked around. His face showed something she hadn't seen before in a human. Regret. He walked over to a small box in the corner and opened it. From inside, he took out a small pack of food and a water bottle. He placed them beside her and stepped back. No, tricks, he said. You can eat. Kira looked at the food, unsure. Was it poison? Was this another test? But hunger won. Her hands trembled as she reached for the pack. She opened it with shaking fingers and took a small bite. The food was dry but sweet. She chewed slowly, watching him. Mark sat on the floor near the door. Not close, not threatening. He didn't speak again, he just waited. She finished the food, then drank the water. For the first time in many days, her stomach didn't hurt. Still, her mind raced with questions. Who was this man? Why was he different? Would this kindness last? She didn't trust him. Not yet. But something in her heart whispered. Maybe this one was not like the others. Mark finally stood. I'll come back tomorrow, he said. Kira lowered her eyes. She didn't answer, but as the door closed behind him, she did something she hadn't done since her capture. She breathed, deep and slow, and she held the warm blanket tighter around her small body, the human with no weapon. The next day, Kira waited. She didn't want to admit it, even to herself, but she hoped the man would return. She still sat in the same cold metal room, chains still around her ankles and neck. The blanket he gave her the night before was now her only comfort. She clutched it tightly. It smelled of something warm. Something not cruel. Then, click. The door unlocked again. Her body tensed. What if it was someone else this time? What if the kindness had been just one night of false hope? The door opened. It was him. Mark. He came in alone again. No guards, no weapons, No loud voice, just calm, steady steps. This time, he carried a tray, warm food, a cup of something hot, and a small bundle of fabric. Kira didn't speak. She didn't move. Mark placed the tray on the floor beside her and opened the cloth bundle. Inside were clothes, clean, soft, simple. "I thought you might want something fresh," he said. Still, she stayed quiet. Then he did something strange. He turned his back to her. "I won't look," he said. Kira blinked in surprise. What was he doing? He was giving her privacy? After a long pause, she slowly reached for the clothes. Her hands were stiff. She looked at the wall, then back at him. He didn't turn. He didn't peek. Carefully, she changed. The clothes were warm and fit her small frame. Her old, torn outfit lay on the floor now like dead skin. "I'm done," she whispered, barely louder than a breath. Mark turned and gave a small smile. Not wide, not fake. A tired, honest smile. "You look stronger," he said. Kira looked down. She didn't feel strong. But something inside her chest, just a small spark, started to glow. He sat cross-legged near the wall, far enough not to scare her. He didn't eat. He didn't talk too much, just silence. Peaceful silence. Then he said, "Do you want to hear a story?" She gave the smallest nod. Mark began. He spoke of a planet called Earth, of rivers, trees, and animals she had never seen. He spoke of a daughter, an alien child with silver eyes, who he once held close. She was taken during a raid. She was scared, he said softly. "Just like you." Kira felt something heavy in her throat. His words were not weapons. They were memories, real and painful. He looked at her. "I'm not like the others. I don't believe in hurting the weak." Kira wanted to believe him. She did. But a voice in her mind kept warning her. Humans lie. Still, he returned every day, with food, with stories, with silence that didn't hurt. He never tried to touch her, never shouted, never threatened, and he never brought a weapon. That alone made him different. On the 6th visit, Mark sat down and said something unexpected. "I asked the guards to take off your chains," he said, "but they said no." Kira stared at him. "Why would a human ask for her freedom?" he continued. "They don't trust you, but I do." She wanted to ask, why? But her throat felt too tight. Instead, she whispered, "You don't even know me." He looked into her golden eyes. "I don't need to know everything, I can see enough." The next day, when the door opened, the chains on her ankles were gone. Only the neck collar remained. Mark didn't mention it. He only smiled and handed her a small music player. "Keeps me calm when I can't sleep," he said. She put in the earphones. A soft tune began to play, something slow, something that felt like light rain on warm ground. Kira had never heard music before. It made her eyes water. Mark didn't point it out. He didn't make her feel weak. He just said, "You're safe, now." And in that moment, she wanted to believe him. Not because he said the words, but because for the first time in her life, someone meant them. Her body flinched, but her heart listened. Kira sat near the corner of the cold metal room. But something was different now. Her legs were free. Her hands weren't tied. Only the collar around her neck remained, but even that felt loose. Almost forgotten. She wore clean clothes. The blanket was always nearby. And now a small device played soft music when she needed silence to rest her mind. But fear didn't vanish so easily. Not when your scars still ached. Not when your memories screamed louder than the music. She heard footsteps again. Those same, calm, steady ones. They didn't scare her anymore. Yet still, her body reacted. She flinched. Mark stepped inside, as always, alone and empty-handed today. No food, no tools, just a gentle look in his tired eyes. He sat down slowly on the floor, close but not too close. "You don't have to jump every time," he said softly. "I know," Kira whispered, her voice small. But her body didn't know. Her heart tried to believe, but her skin still remembered chains, screams, darkness. Mark didn't push her. He never did. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled something out. A thin metal necklace with a glowing stone. "This belonged to my daughter," he said. "She wore it until the day they took her." Kira leaned forward slowly. The stone flickered like a tiny star. Its color shifted from blue to soft gold. It was beautiful. Mark placed it gently on the ground between them. "I want you to have it." Kira's eyes widened. "No," she said quickly. "It's hers." "It was," he replied. "But now, I think she'd want someone like you to wear it. Someone who still has a chance." She looked at the necklace. Her fingers twitched. She wanted to touch it, but her hands trembled. Slowly, carefully, she picked it up. The chain was light. The stone was warm against her skin. Mark smiled. "It suits you." Kira didn't know what to say. The silence stretched. But it wasn't an awkward silence. It was peaceful. Safe. She looked at him then. Really looked. His jacket was worn out. His face had light scars. His eyes held pain, but not anger. Not hatred. "Why are you kind to me?" she asked. Mark leaned back against the wall and took a deep breath. "Because I failed once," he said. "I let them take my daughter. I swore if I ever saw someone else in that same pain, I wouldn't walk away." Kira hugged the necklace close to her chest. She didn't trust many words, but his voice had no lies in it. Maybe, just maybe, he was the kind of human who didn't need weapons to fight, because his kindness cut deeper than any blade. Later that day, something strange happened. Kira was sitting quietly when the door creaked open without warning. It wasn't Mark. It was one of the guards, rough, loud, with boots that stomped and eyes that looked at her like dirt. He stepped forward. Kira panicked. Her legs froze. Her hands clenched. The guard reached for her arm, and suddenly, Mark was there. He burst in, grabbed the man's wrist and shouted, "Get your hands off her!" The guard growled. "She's a prisoner, not your pet." "She's under my care," Mark said, standing firm. "And if you touch her again, I'll report you." "Report." Kira stared in shock. She had seen humans protect their own, but never someone like her. Never someone broken, forgotten, labeled as trash. The guard cursed and left. Mark turned to her. "I'm sorry," he said. "He wasn't supposed to come in." Her hand still shook. Her body still felt cold. But inside her chest, her heart whispered, "He fought for you. He didn't run." That night, Kira didn't cry. She lay on the floor with her blanket, holding the glowing stone close. Its light pulsed gently like a heartbeat, and for the first time since her capture, she whispered a silent wish. "Please let this be real." The escape that never happened. For days, Kira watched the door. Not with fear this time, but with thoughts. Could I leave? She no longer had chains on her feet. Mark even gave her permission to move around the small section of the base they called Zone 9. It was quiet, rarely visited. Still, the collar stayed on her neck. A silent reminder. She wasn't free. But the idea of escape had started to grow inside her like a quiet fire. Mark was kind, gentle. He brought her real food now. No more packaged blocks, he cooked. He taught her words in human English. He even laughed once when she asked, "Why is this food called mac and cheese? It smells like socks." And Kira had smiled too. But at night, when the station lights dimmed, that old voice whispered again, "Don't trust too deep. Humans always want something." She didn't want to believe it. Yet, one night an opportunity came. Mark was late. Very late. She paced near the window. Outside the metal glass, she could see the edge of the hangar bay. A transport ship was being prepared. A few security drones passed by. No guards stood near her door today. No cameras moved. The hallway beyond was empty. The collar blinked red, but not steady. It was flickering, weak, malfunctioning. Her breath caught. She stared at the open panel beside the door. The access code Mark once used was still glowing faintly. Her heart thudded, one step, then another. Her fingers moved fast, surprising even her. She tapped the panel, just like he'd shown her weeks ago when teaching her about the keypad. He didn't mean to reveal the exit code, but he had. The door slid open. Cool air from the hallway rushed in. She stepped out. No alarm, no lights flashing, nothing. She walked quickly, bare feet against the steel floor, heart pounding like a drum. The hangar was just ahead. She saw shadows of ships. She could run, she could disappear, she could be free. But just as she passed the supply bay door, "Kira?" She froze, his voice, behind her. She turned slowly. Mark stood there, breathless, holding a small bag of food. He had run all the way back to her room and found it empty. "Where were you going?" he asked. His voice wasn't angry. It was filled with something else. Hurt. Kira swallowed hard. "I thought maybe you weren't coming back." "I was just late," he said. "I went to the medical deck. I was checking if your collar could be removed." Her knees weakened. "What?" "I was trying to get you full freedom," he said, stepping closer. "No chains, no collar, no label, just you." She looked away. Shame burned in her chest. "I didn't mean to run," she whispered. My heart still remembers the cage." Mark nodded slowly. "I understand." He didn't shout. He didn't lock her up again. Instead, he walked to her. He held out the food. "Come eat. You must be hungry." She took it with shaking hands. Tears filled her eyes. "I thought I was escaping," she said. "But now, I think I was just running away from the one person who wanted me to stay." Mark said nothing. He didn't need to. He walked beside her, back to the room she had once called a cell. Now it felt more like shelter. That night, as she lay on her blanket, she stared at the glowing necklace on her chest. She hadn't escaped, but she hadn't been caught either. What happened was something else. She had been seen, heard, chosen, and she had returned, not because of fear, but because her heart listened, and it whispered, "This is the first place I've ever been safe." Hidden in the human's quarters, Mark knew he couldn't keep hiding her in the same cold room. It was meant for prisoners, not for someone trying to heal. The guards were starting to ask questions. Too many supply trips, too many hours logged in. Zone 9. If they found out she wasn't just another alien captive, they'd take her, or worse. So one night, Mark made a choice. He brought her to his private quarters. The hallway was dim, the metal floor silent under their steps. Kira wore a hood and walked close behind him. Her collar was hidden beneath a scarf. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with confusion. "Why are we doing this?" she whispered. Mark didn't slow down. "Because you're not a prisoner anymore. But they don't know that." He opened the door to his room with a quick scan. It slid open with a quiet hiss. Kira stepped in and froze. This was not like her old room. This space had warmth. There was a bed with real sheets, a small shelf filled with books, photos on the wall, a plant alive with green leaves. The smell of something sweet floated in the air. It felt like a place where someone had lived, not just existed. "Stay here from now on," Mark said. "It's not much, but it's safe." Kira walked around slowly. She touched the corner of the bed with her fingers. Soft. She looked at a photo on the wall. Mark holding a little alien child with silver eyes. "She was beautiful," Kira said softly. Mark nodded. "She was my daughter. I named her Alari, half human, half alien, bright as a star." "What happened to her?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, He sat on the bed and looked at the floor. She was taken in a raid by a black market crew. I was too late. By the time I got there, they'd already sold her. Kira sat beside him, quiet. Do you think she's still alive? She asked. I don't know, he replied. But when I saw you, something in me said, don't fail. Again, she looked at him. You're not failing, she said. He gave a small, tired smile. Later that night, Kira stood in the small washroom. Mark had left her clean towels and simple clothes. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her skin was healing. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now held something gentler. She washed her face, dried her hair, and wore a soft gray shirt that hung slightly loose on her frame. When she stepped out, Mark had already laid out a small mat beside the bed with a blanket and pillow. I thought you might want your own space, he said. Kira didn't reply. She just walked to the mat, sat down and curled under the blanket. Before she closed her eyes, she whispered, Thank you. Mark turned off the lights. Good night, Kira. But the next morning brought trouble. A message beeped on Mark's wall screen. Internal inspection, Zone 9. Someone had reported strange activity. Supplies missing, movement in a restricted section. They're coming, Mark said. Kira stood frozen. What do we do? He looked at her. You hide here. She shook her head. No. If they find me, I won't let them, he said. Let me handle this. He opened a floor panel beneath the bed. A small crawl space led to a hidden chamber. I used this during a lockdown once, he said. They won't check it. She crawled inside. Before he closed the panel, he looked at her again. I won't let them hurt you. The door hissed open moments later. 2 officers walked in. Cold eyes, sharp suits, no smiles. Mr. Haynes, one said. You've been flagged for excess rations and unexplained zone access. Step aside. Mark stood calmly. I cook a lot, he said with a shrug. I don't like station food. The officers scanned the room. They lifted the blankets, opened the storage crates. Kira didn't breathe. Inside the hidden space, the air was thin and tight. But her heart beat louder than ever. One officer turned toward the bed. What's under there? Just old tools, Mark said, stepping between him and the panel. The officer raised an eyebrow. We'll be back with dogs. The 2 left without, finding her. When the panel opened again, Kira gasped in fresh air. You lied for me, she said. Mark looked down at her and said, No, I protected my family. She didn't know what that word meant anymore, but when he said it, she wanted it. When trust was born for the next few days, Kira stayed hidden in Mark's room. Every time a knock echoed on the door, her heart skipped. She'd freeze, ears sharp, waiting for trouble. But Mark always handled it, smooth, calm, confident. No one suspected the alien girl they'd labeled useless and broken was living in the quarters of a respected human officer. Mark never treated her like a secret. He treated her like she belonged. One morning, Kira woke to the smell of something warm and sweet. She sat up, eyes blinking against soft sunlight coming through the narrow window. Mark stood by a small stove, flipping something round and golden on a pan. Pancakes, he said with a grin. Old Earth recipe. Kira stared at the plate. It looked strange, too soft, too good. What's it made of? She asked suspiciously. Flour, milk, sugar. Not poison, I promise. She gave him a side glance. I didn't say I thought it was poison. You thought it with your eyes, Mark teased. She tried the first bite slowly, and her face changed. Her eyes widened, her lips curled, a smile. She covered her mouth, almost embarrassed, and said, It tastes like safety. Mark looked down and smiled to himself. Later, while folding clothes, Kira found a small broken necklace inside Mark's drawer. The chain was snapped, the charm scratched, but she recognized the glowing stone design. It matched the one she wore, the one from his daughter. She walked over and held it out. This was hers too. Mark nodded. It was the first gift I ever gave her. Kira looked at it closely. Why do you still keep it? His eyes met hers. Because some things, even when broken, are still precious. Her fingers trembled slightly. She held the necklace for a long moment, then gave it back with both hands. You should fix it, she said quietly. So she knows you're still waiting. Mark looked at her, not as a stranger, not as a guest, as something more. That evening, something unexpected happened. They were watching an old video together on a tablet. It showed Earth forests, rivers, and children playing in rain. Kira had never seen rain. She pressed her fingers to the screen in awe. Mark laughed softly. Someday you'll feel it too. Kira turned to him. Do you really think I'll ever be allowed to go there? Earth? He hesitated, then said, Yes, if I have to smuggle you there myself. She blinked, stunned. You'd risk that? He nodded. Without question. Silence followed. The video still played, but Kira wasn't watching anymore. Why? She asked. His answer came slowly. Because trust isn't built with chains. It's built with choices. And every day you've chosen not to run. You've chosen to believe in me. Kira lowered her gaze. Her hands fidgeted in her lap. I still get scared, she admitted. I know, he said gently. But being brave doesn't mean fear disappears. It means you keep going anyway. That night, a storm of memories returned to her. Voices yelling, whips cracking, the sting of hunger and shame. She woke up gasping. Mark wasn't asleep. He was sitting at the edge of the bed reading a book. He looked up immediately. Bad dream? She nodded, wiping her face quickly. Mark stood, reached for a cup of warm tea and handed it to her. No questions, no judgment, just quiet understanding. As she drank, he sat beside her. I still dream about my daughter too, he said. Sometimes I hear her calling my name. Sometimes I wake up thinking I failed her all over again. They sat in silence. Then, Kira did something she'd never done before. She leaned her head gently against his shoulder. Her body still shook, but less than before. And for the first time she whispered, Thank you for not giving up on me. Mark didn't move away. He didn't speak. He just stayed there, warm, quiet, real. In that moment, trust was no longer a distant hope. It was born, quietly and fully, in the space between two broken people. One who had lost everything, and one who had just begun to believe she was worth saving. A gentle touch that changed everything. A week passed. Kira no longer jumped at every sound. She no longer slept, curled in fear. And when Mark left the room, she didn't think he was gone forever. She had learned something new. Peace. But peace didn't last on space stations built by fear. One morning, the emergency sirens wailed. Red lights flashed through the corridors. Mark burst into the room, face tense. They found out, he said. Kira froze. About me? He nodded. They traced the missing records. They're sending a squad. Her heart raced. I'll leave. I'll run. They'll arrest you. Mark stepped closer and grabbed her shoulders gently. You're not running alone. We're leaving together. She shook her head. No, you'll lose your rank, your life. I already gave that up the day I chose to protect you. Tears built in her golden eyes. Why would you throw away your whole world? For me. Mark looked at her, eyes filled with something deeper than duty. Because when I found you, I was broken too. Saving you saved me. They packed fast. Mark handed her a bag. Food medkit, spare ID. She took it with shaking hands. Follow me. We'll go through the lower tunnels, old maintenance paths no one uses anymore. They moved through metal halls, hiding from patrol drones and scanners. Kira followed close, trusting each step. As they reached the hangar's back entrance, voices shouted behind them. Stop them. A guard fired a stun bolt. Mark shoved Kira behind a crate and took the hit. His body slammed against the floor. Kira screamed, Mark! More footsteps approached. Kira looked around in panic and saw it, a weapon, dropped by one of the guards. She reached for it, but her hand trembled. She had never held one before, never wanted to. But Mark lay on the ground, unmoving. Something inside her snapped. She stood tall, eyes fierce, body between Mark and the guards. "Back away," she shouted. They laughed. "You? What are you gonna do, slave girl?" Then, a noise behind them. The emergency ship Mark had prepped roared to life. A remote ignition he set earlier. The distraction worked. Kira dragged Mark to the ramp with every ounce of strength she had. She hit the launch button, the doors sealed shut, and they lifted into the sky. Hours later. Mark groaned. He opened his eyes slowly. "Are we safe?" Kira smiled through tears. "You protected me. Now it was my turn." Mark laughed weakly. "You really pulled a blaster?" "Almost dropped it," she said, laughing too. "But I looked scary." He reached for her hand. She didn't flinch. She held it tightly. The stars glowed outside the window. The old collar still hung around her neck. But now, it was unlocked. She took it off slowly, her fingers steady. Then she whispered, "I'm free now." Mark nodded. "You always were." Later, as they drifted through open space, Kira sat beside him. "I used to think humans were monsters," she said. "But you taught me something else." "What's that?" She placed her hand over his heart. "That sometimes the gentlest touch changes everything." Mark's eyes softened. He didn't need to say anything. They both knew. They were no longer broken. They had become each other's home.